1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly.
Woke up this morning without a warning. Words were still ringing in my head. It came, it seemed within my dream, a gentle voice, and this is what it said. Stop now, you got to stop and listen to what I say. Stop and feel that you've been missing.
Oh, look at all them monkeys out there just running around. We've added so many more. And Ramon, I think since the December 21st thing was a good thing for the monkeys, because I think since that date, the level of consciousness on this planet has been rising on a very steady and increasingly that snowball going down the hill type growth. I'm just seeing more and more and more people that are jumping on the proverbial bandwagon and really starting to dig into this stuff and try to understand who and what we are. So I think we've gone past the 100th monkey mark, and we are now watching that wave cascade across the planet, and it's an exciting time to be here.
You know, I kept forgetting to tell you, but last Saturday I do all my classes, my private classes, and I can't really say, because you told me not to say the company's name, but one of my students, the company he works for, an electronic company, according to him, they used to have a psychic department. And I was like, what?
The psychic department in what kind of a company? Electronics company.
Yeah, he said they were doing like research and things like that. It was like very quiet, and someone kind of like, he wasn't even supposed to know, according to him. So I haven't verified that yet, so I don't want to go and say it.
Yeah, I've mentioned on the show several times that guys at work have last ones I expected to come up to me and talk to me about anything that has to do with consciousness and the changes that are happening on the planet. I had another guy just out of the blue come up and start talking to me about stuff, and I didn't have a clue that this guy was anywhere near thinking about anything beyond the box. So there's just another one of those here's your sign things. It's actually happening, and people are actually waking up, and it is growing. It is a movement that is growing fast, and I'm just I'm amazed that I'm here at this time.
Yeah, Sunday I was teaching at another school, and I have a student. We always talk about these things, but if you saw him, you would never think he's into this. The same thing. We were talking. He was asking me about the different alien species and what do I know and stuff like that. And it was just an amazing conversation. Sometimes I feel guilty for even getting paid for his class, because we always have such great conversations. Yeah.
Gotta love your work, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so the music you heard before we started here was the Perry Mill Project's Pick Up the Call. So,
yeah, pick up the call.
Good stuff. And I would urge you guys to, we've got links plastered all over the website there for him somewhere. Anyways, they're attached to this show page. There'll be a link to his website. And I would urge you guys to not only check out what he's doing on the conscious level, but listen to that album. I mean, it's some good stuff. Help support him in that way if you don't really want to support him in the other conscious work he's doing.
Yeah. So I put some stuff last night on the news. Well, my last night, Tom's morning. And Tom, we need some like news music.
Let me beat on the keyboard.
There we go. So, we have great UFO foot. All right, Tom, that's it. We have great UFO footage over Melbourne. Craft stops in mid-flight. I have the link to that. I looked at the video. It's not the smoking gun. I guess I'm always looking for that smoking gun, but it's pretty weird, and it's definitely not flies or dust or whatever else they want to say it is.
Swamp gas?
Yeah, swamp gas. That's my favorite one. Then there's one that I think this one's kind of older. Tiny alien bodies confirmed with CT scans and X-rays, says Dr. Stephen Greer, presidential briefing documents. Here's one that I really like. 18 giants, skeletons, and pyramids found in Wisconsin. You know, Tom, those giants won't go away.
Yeah, they're definitely keep popping their heads up in the news, and in that fringe news, but they keep popping up.
Here's something that me and Tom did accidentally. I guess when we went back in time that time, Tom, we dropped some stuff off. 300 million year old machinery found in Russia. Expert says aluminum gears, not the result of natural forces, may be extraterrestrial. Or Tom just slipping up.
Intraterrestrial.
Yeah, I think that's more interterrestrial. And as far as the news, that's it. You don't forget you can catch us on Facebook. I always like to post a lot of stuff on there in our shows and who's coming up. Tom's YouTube, which he does a great job with that, and also Twitter. And if you're listening to to us on YouTube, make sure you go onto the website, which is www.thehundredthmonkeyradio.com. And anything else, Tom?
Yeah, the Ramona. What keeps Ramona and I going is our subscriber base, and that's what pays our bills here. And we really, really appreciate all our members, and urge anybody out there to become a member and help support what we're doing here. Help spread the information that we're spreading, and everything that you guys contribute to us, and by buying the subscription for the second hour content, it all goes right back into the show, guys. We're not, we definitely don't make any money on this. So I want to definitely give my heartfelt thanks to everybody out there who has been supporting us for the last couple of years. So. Yeah,
and I guess I need to give a big shout out to a person who this next guest was introduced by her, Rohini. Thank you so much. And I gotta say, I had a chance to meet this guest, so I rarely do. So when I get to meet them, I'm very excited here in Tokyo. And we had coffee, and such a lovely young woman. Tom?
We have Lyssa Royal Holt, excuse me. She holds a BA in psychology, and through this study developed an interest in hypnosis. While in college, she acquired the ability to put herself in the hypnotic state for the purpose of stress management. It was then that she discovered her natural intuitive abilities. In 1979, Lyssa had a remarkable UFO sighting witnessed by her family. This sighting triggered a profound interest in the nature of extraterrestrial consciousness. Her interest in hypnosis, UFOs, and ETs eventually led her to the development of her unique channeling abilities. Lyssa Royal, welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio.
Thank you, Tom and Ramon. It's wonderful to be here. And Ramon, I owe you one for calling me a young woman. Thank you.
Yeah, the bill's in the mail, right, Ramon?
No, you look amazing.
Thank you.
You look much younger.
Well, thank you very much.
Whatever you're doing, keep it up.
Must be the channeling.
So, tell us a little bit about, for those people who don't know you, how does someone get into channeling?
You kind of fall into it. If anyone would have told me 30 years ago that this is what I'd be doing as my life work, I would have thought they were crazy. Now looking back, I can see that my life kind of set me up to do this, but of course, in the middle of it, you don't know that. So it started pretty much with a UFO sighting in 1979. And at that time, I was in college, and I had an interest in UFOs. So it wasn't, something outside of my paradigm, but I had the sighting with my family in the U.S. state of New Hampshire, and it was something that could not be explained away. And that really started the quest. So because I was a psychology student, one of the studies that I had was hypnosis. So I was learning to put myself into an altered state of consciousness just for my studies. But I found that when I was in this state of consciousness that I was naturally intuitive, and I was receiving, at that point it wasn't so much messages, it was more just wisdom and images, but nothing very, profound. But as time went on, after I graduated college, I moved to Los Angeles, and that's when things really began to accelerate. Now we're talking about the early 1980s, and I began to have a lot of UFO sightings, even in daylight, sometimes over the freeway in Los Angeles. And I thought, this is crazy. Is it just me seeing this stuff? But sure enough, on radio shows, mainstream radio, they were talking about all these hundreds of other people that have seen the same thing. So one thing led to another, and I coincidentally found myself going to a channeling session by another channel who ended up being a very close friend of mine, and I know probably your listeners are familiar with who it is, and I know you guys are familiar with who it is. The channel's name is Daryl Anka, and he channels Bashar. And so Bashar was my first experience, and at that point Daryl was a new channel. So it was just 10 of us sitting in a living room 3 times a week, really delving into the idea of new consciousness and extraterrestrial realities. And it really changed my life, obviously. Spending that much time with Bashar would change anyone's life. And then I started to receive messages. And one night I had a dream, and in the dream, a boy from India appeared, and he touched all of my energy centers, and he said, "You will be a channel." And when I woke up, I, of course, knew what a channel was, but I thought, you've got to be kidding me. There's no way. How can this, at this point I was in my early 20s, how can this young person suddenly do this kind of work? One thing led to another again, and I got a phone call from Daryl's wife telling me, "Oh, there's a channeling class. 1 space was left, and I put your name on it." And I started studying channeling, did it for a year. I know we can delve into that subject a little bit more shortly, but I learned channeling from a very unique perspective, and it was more of a psychological perspective, which for me lended it more validity. So one thing led to another. I started to channel, and now it's 25 or more than 25 years later, and it just never stopped. So that's the short version.
Were you already in psychology courses when you said that UFO sighting?
Yes, I was actually just starting college, so I was a freshman at the time.
And you'd already intended to go the psychology route?
To be honest, I'm not sure when I declared my major, but it was around that time, because I just always had that interest in the human mind and the human consciousness.
It's a natural fit for doing this type of work, having that background, I think.
Yes, it is, and that's why I was so excited when I started to be trained as a channel. I was trained by a woman who was being studied by professors at UCLA, which is the University of California in Los Angeles. And these professors were studying the process that one experiences when they learn to channel, what happens within the psyche. And they were studying it from a very psychological perspective. So that's what I mean when I said it lended more validity for me, because, oh, well, these professors are studying this, there must be something to it. So Daryl was one of the channels that was studied. My teacher, Sean, was one of the ones studied, and a number of others. And the hypothesis that one of the professors had was that if a channel commits to their spiritual growth and the processing of their personality and their ego, if they commit to this process of growth throughout their life, that an integration process happens between the channel and the channeled entity. So in a sense, the human becomes enriched and in a sense can almost become as wise or as integrated as these channeled entities. And unfortunately, she passed away before she could see whether or not her hypothesis had any validity. I really, really believe she was right on the money.
Yeah. I've kind of witnessed that, looking out at all the different channels that Ramona and I have talked to, is that the wisdom that the channel holds, it reflects the wisdom that that's channeled through them. So I don't see how you could not gain that wisdom as it's flowing through you too, though.
Yes, I think if you really have some channels who are very sincere in growing themselves, it definitely influences us. And there are some who perhaps maybe see it more of a profession and are not interested in their own growth. And in that case, you can definitely see the division.
Yeah. I think we can. I don't know. I've had a pretty good nose for. Well, I'm a Scorpio, so. I've got the pretty good nose for bullshit, so.
Me too.
So, I smell those things out pretty easily. There's something that just doesn't sit right with somebody or the message or whatever, and from that point on, I'm slow to judge. I'm very slow to judge, but if something doesn't sit right, I don't, I'm not very shy about saying something's not right there.
Yeah. It's very important to be discerning, especially in this field.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, how are they like now, the psychologists and psychiatrists? If you went to one now, would they lock you up, or would they say, oh, that's interesting, let's study it?
I think it really depends on the type of psychologist or psychiatrist that you're going to, because right now I know some pretty cutting edge psychiatrists and psychologists who, I know one psychologist who's a PhD who studies and has worked with abductees at a very, very high level, and other shadowy government type stuff, which I don't deal with. And I do know psychiatrists who are very, very spiritual. So it really depends on who you're going to. I think in terms of mainstream universities, I'm not sure that academia is teaching today's psychologists about channeling, unless you're going to some type of cutting edge university in some way.
Yeah, Pear Labs or something like that.
I don't know what's out there these days, but this was the 80s, and at that time transpersonal psychology was an up and coming field, and that, I think that was the angle that these psychologists were taking.
That's one thing that's always stuck in my craw about this whole field, as far as the acceptability within society of things that are outside of the third dimensional box.
Yes.
I think that's something that is changing now in the world, and it's like turning a battleship. It's a process.
That's a really good analogy. You're right. And now that I've had 25 or more years in this field, I can really see the difference between how it was then and how it is now. And the battleship is still turning, but it's definitely different than it was in the 80s.
Yeah. You know, there's something else that, you know, it's always been a question in my mind about why the big why question. Why don't we have that solid, rock solid proof to shut up all the skeptics with?
I wish I had the answer to that question. You know, I mean, really, the only answer I can give you is purely philosophical, but the more deeply I do my work and look at the world, the more I start to see that knowledge is subjective. Because, you know, even if you look at the issues of climate change, there are people who are going to say it's not happening and who are scientific, who claim they have the proof. And so you can take any piece of data and turn it for how you need it to express your own point of view. So I'm not sure that we're ever going to have that smoking gun in terms of this field. And in one way, it's a good thing because we need to do that inner work of self-discovery to really know what our truths are, rather than looking for it outside of us.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I agree to a point.
So do I, to a point.
Point. Yeah. I see another path that you know, that maybe my logic I haven't thought it all the way through, but I've spent a lot of time contemplating this on, you know, I see the wisdom in having it being a personal thing, a extremely personal thing, because it is a very personal thing. It's all about self-growth.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I look out and look back at my own personal life and all the struggles that I went through coming to terms with these things and coming to terms with the reality of it, and having it out there in society as a truth would have been much easier for me to grow and progress through it, I believe. That's the way I feel about it. But
yeah, I can really see both sides, Tom. You know, I for some reason when you're talking about this, I'm thinking about when through history has it been a truth? If we look, for example, at the time of Delphi and the oracles as an example, this type of thing was considered a truth, where the oracles were used by the royalty or the leaders at the time. And then what happens? Then they get corrupted, then they get misused. So it's like, where is the point where it can be accepted and not misused? Is that point coming?
When we have so many people on this planet that have that ability, that it is no longer something that is isolated and special, you know.
Yes.
And yes. I think we are really close to that, because I know I have the ability to channel, and I channel spontaneously. I understand that, and I know that.
Yes.
But, and I know many people who do it, whether they're aware of it or not. So I think we're getting close.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That is one of the reasons I have the passion for teaching channeling. Right now I do it primarily in Japan. And the single biggest obstacle that I see in my students is self-doubt, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah. And see, that self-doubt could be shattered if it was an accepted truth throughout society.
Yes. I say yes, but there's a part of me that sees that sometimes some of my students can have these phenomenal, amazing, unquestionable experiences that they still question and they still doubt themselves.
Oh, I do it myself.
Yeah, so do I.
I mean, absolutely.
Well, isn't that because of the whole stigma that if you're into this, you're weird and you're crazy kind of thing?
I've not found that that's the biggest reason why. I've been working in Japan so much, and the Japanese specifically have a specific pattern of self-doubt. But a lot of it has to do with the issues of deservability and am I good enough to be able to have this connection? Because to the core, many people feel like a bad child or
I'm not worthy.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that is really one of the biggest cores I see. They can't possibly believe that they can have this experience. That breaks my heart too.
Yeah, I think the same in Japan and in America. I grew up in America, but I've taught school here in Japan, and I can see where that comes from. Because in childhood, it's like you can't be different. You have to be like everybody else.
Yes.
Like that famous Japanese saying, "The nail that sticks out is the one that gets hammered."
Exactly. Yes.
So
That my students in Japan use that very analogy when we're talking about channeling.
oh man, I hate that analogy.
I know.
So what is for you, what's been like your greatest gift that you felt you've received since you started this?
Oh my gosh. No one has ever asked me that question, and I don't know that I could narrow it down to one. The whole process, being that it's more than 25 years, is that as I get older and as I do the channeling more and more, I go deeper with it. And as I go deeper with it, then the information that comes to me through the channeling state gets deeper and deeper. So one of the biggest gifts that I receive is that when I'm doing the channeling, I am often experiencing what is being said. So, for example, if someone is talking about time-space reality or parallel realities or something like that, and I'm channeling about that, my consciousness literally experiences what it is like to exist in that state of being. And there's a plus and a minus to that, because when I wake up, I absolutely know what it is, what it feels like, but the limitation of linear language and linear thought makes it impossible for me to communicate it. So I would have to say one of the biggest gifts is being able to tangibly experience the realities and the wisdom that I'm channeling. But that's just one of so many.
So with being that, we're all one, with your channel, when you're channeling a certain person, let's say like Sasha, do you feel that you guys become one in the same during the channeling? And does it stay the same way? Do you still feel that way after the channeling is done?
Sasha is a really good example. For the listeners who don't know, Sasha is one of the beings that I channel who says she is from the Pleiades, and also that she is a future incarnation of me, which is hard to swallow sometimes, but over the years I have come to accept it because of the experiences that I've had. So in the very beginning, when I channeled Sasha, she first came to me in 1988. There was a very big difference between Lyssa and Sasha. The mannerisms, the way of communicating, the way of speaking, it was all very, very different. But over the years, Lyssa and Sasha began to blend. And I can access her much more easily in my conscious state, or when I'm teaching in a conscious state. And then the last couple of years, something really amazing has happened. And I actually wrote about this in the new edition of Preparing for Contact, the English edition. It was a retreat that I was doing at Mount Fuji, which I do every summer. And it's a I call it a contact retreat, where the theme is about contact, and we have one night, usually near Mount Fuji, where we do contact work, where we try to open ourselves and connect with whoever is in the area. So this was, I think, 2 summers ago. It was in the last 2 or 3 years. I don't remember exactly when it was. But it's dark out. We're outside. We're near Mount Fuji. And I'm not fully channeling Sasha, but I can feel her there. And as I'm guiding the group through the activities that we're doing, the energy or the frequency in the area becomes so intense, I literally feel as if my body can't handle it. And, you know, of course, my mind, I'm a big skeptic, even with the work that I do. My mind is saying, oh, you're crazy, you're not feeling anything. But at that moment, the interpreter leans over and says to me, oh, the energy is so strong, I feel like I'm going to pass out. And so then I knew, yeah, isn't that great? I have one of the best interpreters in the world. She's so sensitive. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to surrender to this then. So I found that as I surrendered, and the best way I can describe it is I became Sasha, the discomfort of the energy totally vanished. And it became more of a sense of bliss and peace, although you could still feel that it was a heightened energy state. And so from that state, we did the work with the group. And then when it was finished and Sasha left, there was a tangible difference in what the energy felt like. And I started to realize, going back to what I had said a few minutes ago about the psychologist's theory that we will eventually blend with the entities, I started to realize that this might be what is happening, because I literally felt that I was embodying her, or I was her, and there was no boundary between time space in that moment. It was quite cool. I don't know if I answered your question, Ramon, or if I went off on a tangent.
No, you did. It just kind of what you're explaining is at a deeper level, but it kind of reminds me like you know, when you start living with somebody, or even friends, you start hanging out with them a lot, you start picking up each other's mannerisms, and
Yes.
when you catch yourself doing it, you feel like them.
Yes. Yeah, it's very similar to that. And if multiply that by 1,000, as if suddenly you and the person that you are with have no boundaries between you anymore, and you're the same consciousness. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This it kind of reminds me of something I heard. I won't mention the person's name because I don't really have permission to. But there was a story I heard on Facebook where he was able to, I don't know if it was astrally or how he did it, but he was able to take his consciousness out of his body, put it into another person that was in front of them doing the meditation with him, and they were able to switch and be each other for a short period of time, and then come back, and then they, according to him, he fully understood that person, how they felt, you know, the good and the bad, everything. So is this something like that, or more?
More, because I think, although you're definitely on the right track with it. The thing is that is two people living in this one time space. So that's, I would say maybe that's like training wheels to get us to the next level of having that type of emerging experience with beings and consciousness not of this reality.
So here's something that I've experienced here in the last couple of years. I had a sort of a, I guess you call it the rapport that I do have with my guides or my higher self. I still haven't been able to put my finger on exactly what to term that aspect or that entity. Mm-hmm. But I've felt in the last couple of years that level of consciousness has overlaid itself within my body, within this consciousness.
Yes. Yes. You know, honestly, Tom, I think this is starting to happen for humanity, and this integration process with the parts of us that we previously saw as separate is beginning to happen. And that might be even, I believe, part of the after December 21st, the energies that are now coming. So for people like you who are aware spiritually, there's not as much resistance to this type of experience as there might be for someone who might see it as demonic or begin to think they're going crazy.
Right, right. No, I did that trick a long time ago.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when and we'll start talking about Sasha in a bit, but I'm always amazed on how just the way reality works and what is reality and what it's not. And the older I get, that boundary of what reality is not, I can't see it anymore.
Yes.
Because it's like, okay, is your dreams reality? Well, I'm scared, I feel emotions, I go through experiences. There's even certain dreams that I'm always in that same place, or the streets are certain ways and I know certain people in the dream state. So that to me is a reality. Or
Yes. If you can imagine that, this is one of my favorite topics, and actually one of the other beings that I channel, who calls himself Germain, loves to talk about this stuff. And he would basically say that, if consciousness in our unified state is like a crystal ball, and in order to experience separation, the crystal ball shatters or cracks, and then we start to perceive ourselves as these little pieces of the crystal ball, but in reality we are the totality of the crystal ball, then it stands to reason that there will be times where your consciousness will traverse over those cracks, so to speak, and you'll experience reality from the perception of another you, which is really a part of the big whole. Do you understand what I mean?
I think, Tom, didn't you experience that?
I certainly
Like the
did.
shattering mirror?
Shattering mirror, yeah. It was in an out of body state, and I was being shown some things, and I had I was shown a mirror, and the impression and the feelings that I got from the mirror was that it was life. It was the one. It was the oneness of the unity of all consciousness.
Yes.
And then I was given the vision of it shattering into infinite number of pieces.
Yes.
And it still being the one.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was that whole holographic idea, and I understand why I was given that vision at that time, because I was looking into the holographic nature of life at that point, and that's an excellent metaphor that I've adopted myself, the hologram.
Yes, it is an excellent metaphor. It's actually, I'm so happy to hear that you had that experience. It's actually one that I've used it through my channeling for many, many years because it's so useful, and it helps people have at least a little bit of tangible understanding of being both separate and unified at the same time. Right.
And but yeah, wrapping your head around how can we all be one when I'm right here?
Yeah.
The third dimensional logic doesn't fit that.
Yeah, you have to go beyond the third dimensional logic.
That brings up a good point. So let's just say I just started listening to the show first time. how do you even step outside those boundaries? Because it's not like you don't learn this in elementary school. It's, I guess, I don't know about for you, but for me and Tom, it was almost like, we got hit with the proverbial 2x4, and it was like, hey, look at this. And it's like, no, I don't want to look. Okay, here's another one.
You get hit by the 2x4s when you don't want to look, right?
Yeah.
Harder.
Right across the eyes.
If you're someone listening who wants to begin to have those experiences, I would say that one of the keys is meditation. Because if you rely solely on the third dimensional mind to guide you through these experiences, you'll be disappointed over and over again, because the third dimensional mind has its rules and its paradigm, and anything that exists outside of that will be invalidated. So when you start doing active practices of meditation, then you're going to start to have those experiences of disconnecting from that linear reality stream and begin to have experiences outside of time, outside of space. And yeah, the mind will want to jump in and label everything and explain everything. But after a while, the mind gets tired of it, because the mind can't find explanations for it. And that's when your inner paradigm starts shifting. And like when Tom said about his experience with the mirror shattering, I think I really felt from you that the Tom before that experience was different than the Tom after that experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Once you have that inner experience, you can't go back. You really can't.
Right. You can't unknow something that you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can forget it, but you still know it.
Exactly.
I mean, and there's a fine line there, but I think that's a pretty true statement. You can forget something, but within your being, your whole character is based around what you know.
Yes.
And all your mannerisms, everything are developed from, especially more so from what you know. I mean,
Yes.
A lot of your belief structure forms that also, but what you know is the foundation and the core. So.
Yes, exactly. So we have to have those personal experiences to start shifting the paradigm. Your show is called 100th Monkey, which is so perfect, because as all of us start having these experiences and our consciousness starts shifting, it makes it easier for others that come after us to have those experiences, and thus you have the shift.
So what is consciousness?
What is consciousness? Maybe I'm trained too much by my channeled entities. But for me, I see consciousness as one thing, meaning that the being that's looking through my eyes right now is the same being looking through Ramon's eyes, Tom's eyes, every listener's eyes. And that would be the truest state of consciousness, that one being that is all pervasive in reality, that is basically watching itself in its myriad forms. So if you then take that idea of fragmentation, like shattering the mirror, and you break it into little pieces, that one being is still present, but little pieces of the being is present too. So some people think, well, the thing that makes Tom is consciousness. But that's just one small shard of the consciousness. I'm probably going off on a tangent here. But I don't think consciousness is in no way connected with our egoic personality, our identity. It's what is beyond that. And that's what binds us. That's what ties us together, all of us.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that kind of reminds me of, especially now with the advances in modern medicine. If I take a cell of mine, one of my cells, doesn't matter from what part of the body, I can, that's still part of me, but now with modern science, I can grow that cell and possibly even clone. Is it something, is consciousness something similar like that? So if we use just metaphorically, you have this whole body and then you take all the cells and separate them and they can become their own human person.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I think it's around the same line. It's all still pointing to the holographic principle in some ways, that we can express ourselves as individuals and also as a unified field, depending on the perspective, really. And perhaps that's what this shift that we're all talking about is based on, is shifting the perception away from separation toward how we're connected and the unity that binds us together. You know, it used to be that idea was more of a kind of a love and light, blissful idea, but when you look at holographic theory, there's some science behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That kind of reminds me. You'll see this with different kinds of birds, but I think I just get them confused. I think it might be the swallow. You'll see them here in Japan in the evening flying along, and their patterns of flying is so amazing that it would take humans, maybe several decades of practice to coordinate the way they move. And you'll see a wave coming and then it looks like the two waves are going to crash into each other and they just blend right in.
Yes, it's like one consciousness but many bodies.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
So how sensitive are you to other people? And I'll give you an example. I have two friends who are oversensitive to the point where they had to shut down a little bit because people will walk by them, and if that person was in great pain, even though they were smiling, they would start crying.
Oh yeah. Because
they were just way too sensitive to other people. How sensitive are you?
I think to some degree I've unconsciously learned how to shut down enough so that I'm not really affected all the time, because I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do. But I do notice retrospectively that if I've been teaching a class where there's been a lot of emotions, that after I'm done, I'm basically ready to collapse. So during the event, I seem to be able to shield myself, but it does create a drain.
It takes its toll.
It takes its toll,
Yeah,
exactly.
yes. So that's something that I noticed personally in my own life, is that, and I've had to actually consciously develop my own shielding. Mm-hmm. When I really started concentrating and focusing on my empathic abilities, I was intrigued. I was like, wow, this is real. And so I kind of, through meditations and all my different practices, worked on opening that up as fast and as big as I could get it open, and only to find out, whoa, Tom, you need to shut some of this stuff down.
Yeah.
And I still find myself, this just happened just a couple of weeks ago. Elizabeth and I were driving somewhere, and I consciously opened myself up to feel, and I got just a horrible, absolutely horrible feeling, that was I think it was on the 21st or the 20, the what? Oh, it was Christmas Eve. Yeah, it was I opened myself up and I just had just an absolutely horrible feeling. And I remember remarking to, or Elizabeth noticed something, and I was like, I just opened myself up and didn't like what I felt, and so it affected me, and it had lingering effects for a little bit until but as soon as I knew what was going on, I worked on, shutting that off again. And
Yeah, a lot of my students, as well as myself, ask that question. How can I still do what I need to do, still be a compassionate human being, still be able to do my work, but have some type of shielding so I don't get drained, so I don't get affected by other people? And I have not yet really found an adequate solution other than taking good care of yourself and giving yourself time to rest and recharge, which I have to admit is something I have difficulty with, and I think that's why I got the flu so bad, because I don't give myself that rest and rejuvenation. So I wish I had an answer for that, because it's not fun, as you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, each of us have that ability to shut it off. We do have an off button, an on and an off button. We just got to find it for ourselves. And it's not the same for everybody. Some people, it may take, some practice to get it, some ritual or a practice of some kind to actually do it for themselves in certain circumstances. But eventually it becomes a thought.
But one wonders if doing that, if we're shutting something else off too.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I live by this every moment of my life for the best and highest good.
Yeah.
And I think that covers all the bases. For me, it feels like it covers all of my bases. That if something is meant to get through that I need to feel or need to sense, whether good, bad, or ugly, that it gets through. My filters are set up. I worked on my filter set for years, trying to make sure that I had my filters in place that were the best and highest good for me. Mm-hmm. And it all boiled down to is adding that little caveat on the end of everything, and the beginning of everything, for the best and highest good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe that everything is transmutable. So, because I have the same exact problem. For example, I went to a shopping place in here and shopping places in Korea, and the energies, I just couldn't handle it. I needed to get out, and my wife, she's not really into this at all, but she just like hit me with a 2x4. She was like, don't you think that's part of your spiritual growth, is being able to transmute this?
Yeah, she's like, right.
Oh shit.
But then going back to the holographic principle we were talking about before, there's many people that teach that when we experience something disharmonious, it is a part of us. And so if we look at it as a part of us that we need to embrace and integrate, that then it no longer affects us in a detrimental way.
Yeah. I notice what a lot of people, when they start getting into this, they become too sensitive. They can't take the cities and they have to move out, and it even becomes to the point where they can't even go to the cities anymore. And I just find that hindering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't live your life avoiding everything all the time.
Right.
So there has to be, as you said, a way to transmute.
Yeah, grow some thicker skin, Ramon.
You come shopping here. Lyssa knows. You come shopping here and get pushed by a couple old ladies and see how you feel.
I find Japan so much more soothing than. Well, I know you're from New York City, Ramon. For some reason, I'm more comfortable in Japan.
I know exactly what you're saying. They're both. They're very high-paced, fast energies, but different. Like, for me, New York is more, is not as fast-paced as Japan, but it's more watch your back kind of thing.
Yes.
My height of awareness of what's going on and watching people and their movements. When I went back, what was it, two summers ago, or I can't remember, 2 summers ago, it just drained me completely. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I grew up in this energy. I couldn't handle it. I was just telling my wife, I want to go home. She was like, you are home. I said, no, my other home.
Japan.
Because it's just that I felt this constant, like, you know, if someone said hi to you, it's like, okay, what's your angle?
Yeah.
You know, instead of just a genuine hi, how are you doing?
Yeah.
So
we've
go ahead, Tom.
pretty much burned up this first hour already. So Lyssa, if you would like to share with our audience your websites and where they can pick up your book. You've only how many books have you got out now?
I have 4 out plus the Galactic Heritage cards.
And
So-
they can get those Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all those places? Or
Well, let's see. First book is Prism of Lyra. That's prism like a prism that you shine light through, Prism of Lyra. It's a new edition that was published in 2011 from Light Technology, and you can get it through Amazon. And the other newest one is also a 2011 edition of Preparing for Contact with a ton of new material. And that's Preparing for Contact, and you can get that through Amazon as well. And 2 of the older books, Visitors from Within, which deals with extraterrestrial encounters and what some people call abductions. That is also available through Amazon. And Millennium, Tools for the Coming Changes, which is more, not so much ET focused, it's more about transformation. And that can be obtained through Amazon as well. The Galactic Heritage cards are in this moment only available in Japan, and they can be done through purchased through Amazon.com. But next month they're coming out here in the States, and they can be purchased through Light Technology Publishing, and I'm sure eventually Amazon. So
we'll definitely have to talk about those in the next hour.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
And my website, www.lyssa, Lyssa, Royal, ROYAL.com. There's also a link on there for the Facebook page. And I will say my website is being redone. This one is very old, so please bear with the ancient navigation system.
Oh, it's not too bad.
It's not too bad, thank you. You're
Not
very
too
generous.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening to this first segment, and I would urge you, if you're listening on YouTube, to pop on over to the website and hit that join button and become a member of the 100th Monkey Radio and check out all the second hour content for our, I guess this is show 126 on the website now, Ramon, right?
I believe so. 126 or 125.
Oh, it's 126. Yeah, 126. Good.
Yeah. You're getting kind of lazy. Only 126 shows in 2 years.
Well,
Come on, Tom.
that's just what we did on the website. We've got, another dozen over on Truth Frequency now, and all the other little ins and outs we do. So, anyways, condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And this is Perry Mills Band, or Perry Mills Project, excuse me. Pick up the call, pick it up.
Stop and feel that you've been missing along the way. Put aside your petty fight, serve your dignity. You've got to show the heart that you've been hiding and set it free. There's just one cure. We're gone wrong. We all need loving. And if the cure for one is the cure for us all, there's an urgent message trying to reach you. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. It came the same way the very next day. The words they just kept on coming through. Hard to conceive if you believe me. This is what you really want to do. You got to tune into your inner being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inner vision. Now let it see. Cast out the mindless chatter. Now let it go. It's time to tap into the heart of shy. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. Pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. Pick up the call. It's really all quite simple in the end. You got to tune into your inner being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inner vision. Now let it see. Cast out the doubt that the mind is chatter. Now let it go. It's time to tap into the heart of the matter. 'Cause don't you know there's just one cure in a world gone wrong. Up and don't be shy. Got to look yourself right in the eye. There's a magic moment trying to meet you, an urgent message trying to reach you. The phone is ringing off the wall, so pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call.